to stop banking profits too soon. Hi, it's Charlie giving you Wednesday's video. I hope you're very well. So I'm actually recording this on Sunday in case you're looking at this Bitcoin chart thinking why has that not moved the last few days. So this is a question that's come in, and I think it's a really good question actually, or someone's asked if I could cover this subject, which is getting in too early or getting in too late, but also getting out too early or out too late as well. So let's cover off getting out too early first of all. And I think the thing that you need to ask yourself when it comes to getting out too early, if you're banking your profits too soon, firstly is what is your strategy? So what we're talking about here is your strategy or your approach is calling for a given exit, has an exit. And what we're talking about when we're talking about banking profits too soon is you're coming out before your strategy or your approach is actually telling you to come out. You're preempting that. So your strategy might have a targeted exit, so it might have a target level, or it might even be using a trailing stop loss. So whatever the exit is, it doesn't matter what your exit approach is, but what is happening is you are going off plan. Okay, oh, if I can use my mouse here, you are going off plan. So you are deviating away from your trading plan there. So if you were a fighter pilot and you had a plan to get yourself from a certain distant destination to your target, if you went off plan, then possibly you could encounter mountainous terrain and crash, or all sorts of things could go wrong. So, and it's the same with trading. If we go off plan, then what can go wrong is that, and you might say, well, yes, but Charlie, but you still banked a profit. And you hear people say, well, that you can't go broke banking a profits. Well, you can really, because if you bank a profit, once you're up, I don't know, a small amount. Let's say you've risked 100 and you've come out when you're 10 into profit. Well, you carry on doing that, then you're going to lose, because at some point your losers are so much bigger than your winners. So what we need to actually do is to start using some self-talk. So self-talk is to start creating post-it notes or having a journal of notes and key phrases and expressions which are useful to you. So for example, if you have a history and a tendency to bank profits too soon, i.e. before you're predetermined what your plan was at outset, then you need to start saying, well, actually, I can't afford. You need to start talking to yourself like this. I cannot afford to bank early, to bank my profits early. I cannot afford to, because in the moment, it makes you feel good. Of course, you've banked a profit. What could possibly hurt? But if you carried on banking your profits early on the next 100 trades, it's going to impact your overall profitability, because of course you're going to have losing trades there as well. And if your winners are being banked early, then are they going to pay for the losers, the inevitable losing trades that you're going to have, and still deliver a profit on top? So you need to start using this sort of language and say, oh, look, in your gut, in your stomach at that moment, you have this burning desire to bank your profit. You've got to have some language, some self-talk language to stop, an arresting mechanism to stop you from doing it. And certain things like saying, oh God, if I carried on doing this over the next 100 trades, I'll probably end up losing money. As much as it might feel good to me right now that I want to bank that. So that's one thing you can do. Some self-talk language there. The other thing that you can do is what I call repetition or repeat. Okay, so whatever the plan was at the beginning of the trade, at the outset, the plan, the strategy, whether you've got a trailing stop approach or whether you've got a targeted approach where you've got in here and you've got a take profit up here, you must repeat the analysis, repeat the strategy, go back over. If you're using a given specific mechanical strategy which has a given entry and a take profit, go back over previous instances, go remind yourself the technicals of why you should be holding on. Go back over when it's happened in the past, because although your target might be up here, it doesn't always just go in a straight line. Look at previous examples where it retraces only to then eventually maybe even chops around, but eventually goes up to the target, to remind yourself that price doesn't go in a straight line. And so that if that's happening to you right now, you can go back over those historical instances. Otherwise, you're more likely to just jump out thinking, oh, it doesn't look right, I'm going to bank my profits now, only to then see it go way up to its target. So there's a two-pronged attack here. One is language that you use, and the other is repeat the exercise of the analysis. If it was a broad-based analysis that you did, go back over, repeat, because that is what helps you deliver that self-confidence to stay with it, and to keep reminding yourself it's okay if I'm in profit and it ends up rolling over and stopping me out. It's okay. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it really doesn't, because what you're really trying to do is look at your overall profitability over the next 100 trades or the next 1,000 trades. So the outcome of what happens right now is desensitized. Yes, of course, it would be lovely to bank the profit, but if you started going down that approach, and every time you get into a profit you decided, oh, I don't feel right, I want to come out, then you're just going to underperform yourself. And so this is why you need to have that acceptance, accepting that you can't possibly be right on every trade that gets into profit, and you have to let go that some of them will roll over and close you out. I did a video a while ago about giving back £30,000 in profits, and I do these things sometimes just to shock people, because people will say, oh, why didn't you trail your stop up? Because that's not the plan, that's not the approach, that's not the strategy. I have to accept that I'm going to get into trades which are going to be into a nice amount of profit, which will actually roll over and stop me out. But if I go too aggressive on the stop management or going off plan, then I'm going to unnecessarily sometimes stop me out, which means it'll never end up going to my overall target. So whatever your approach, whether it's a strategy or whether you're using analysis, an analysis-based approach as well, then once you've formulated a plan, you must stick with it. And as I always say, the markets are irrational, but you must maintain rationality. Your approach needs to be consistent, because the market won't be consistent. It will be challenging you. And if you start adapting to every little thing that happens in the market, oh, I got stopped out that time, oh, I must do something different next time, then all you're effectively doing is curve fitting to the very last trade you've just done, which is ridiculous. So there's some hopefully some good advice for you there, and some tips based on my experience and dealing with traders over the last 20 years for banking profits too soon. We can use a lot of those tips that I've just discussed about banking profits, holding on too long. So you do get people who get into a trade, they're enjoying the trade, it gets to their target, and then they don't bank it. So they get their take profit level is, let's say, here, and they don't bank it, and they think, oh, I think it's going to go further. So again, we can use that same language. I cannot afford to not bank this here, because I have to stay with my trading plan, and my plan at outset was calling for a take profit up here. So again, we can use that self-talk language there to remind ourselves as to why at that point we need to be banking a profit. Now, the other two quadrants here were getting in too early or getting in too late. Now, firstly, with getting in too late, there's nothing wrong with getting in late. There's nothing wrong with getting in further up, because a lot of the time people think, oh, the market's already run. I can't get up here because I've missed. I want to be in down here. Well, of course, it would always be nice if we could get in right off the lows and then run it, because that's where the best risk rewards are. But there's nothing wrong with getting in so-called late, provided there's still a risk to reward opportunity. So supposedly late, yes, but if there's still a risk to reward opportunity there to your designated target, then there's nothing wrong with getting in a bit later. So I think now there is obviously a point where sometimes a fear-based trader may be waiting for so long for a confirmation that genuinely, it is now too late. And that then comes back down to, like I've said, those aspects of fear when it comes to trading. So again, a fear-based trader can sort of say, well, look, I can't afford to be getting in so late because now it's affected my risk reward. I cannot take this trade, and that's now hurting my overall performance because I'm waiting too long. And so that's one thing that a fear-based trader can do. But overall, getting in supposedly late, it's not always going to be the case. It might be the market's already had a bit of a run, but it's not necessarily, it's not always too late, providing that there's still a risk reward to your overall target level. The final one is getting in too early, which is something which I think most traders experience and at some point or still do. Now, getting in too early is because it's always nice if a market's doing a pullback, for example, and you want to get long, and it's always nice if you can capture that level whereby then the price then turns up, because these are where the sort of areas where great risk reward opportunities materialize. The flip side is that you can be too early and the market carries on coming down, so you don't wait maybe for enough confirmation or whatever, and then the market carries on coming down. To me, I think that just comes down to a trading style. If you've got a plan and your plan is to buy against this, let's say, support zone, there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, it might mean you get stopped out, but it also means that on the trades that don't get stopped out, you'll probably get better risk rewards. So for me, yes, it still is an issue getting into early, because what sometimes happens as well is people preempt what's going to happen. And so what they do is, let's say they're waiting for a candlestick to close. So let's say we've got a candlestick which is looking like this. I don't know, it's on a particular day or a particular hour or whatever. But let's take this as an intraday chart, and let's say this was on an hourly bar. And at this point, you're thinking, wow, this is looking really good, really solid, but it's actually only 20 past the hour. But you're thinking to yourself, right, I want to be in. But for some reason, outset, you were looking for it to close above a certain level. And then by the end of the hour, you've already got in because you liked it. And by the end of the hour, it's now looking like this. It's completely sold off and really not looking quite so good now. So there are times where you might be trying to get in a bit too early as well. But again, use self-language. I've already gone through all that now. I cannot afford to get in right now. I have to wait. What's my plan? Stay with the trading plan and all of that. I've realized I'm massively overrunning here. We're 14 minutes in. So again, all of these subjects that I do on the YouTube channel, I only have a limited amount of time to be able to record, and we go in within the trading room within CBT. These are the sorts of things that we're covering off in much more, because we have much more time available to us, and we can cover them off in much more length when we're training with our traders. So but nevertheless, hopefully I've given you some food for thought there on this week's video. Take care. I'll see you at the weekend.